Welcome to this Bridgewater Now update. I'm John Locke. The BR School Committee held a very short meeting on Wednesday night. The chair adjourned the meeting just minutes in after asking some audience members to put on a mask. The Department of Education requires masks to be worn while students and staff are in school buildings, and all visitors are also expected to wear a mask in school buildings regardless of their vaccination status. Some members of the audience protested the ruling from the state's Department of Elementary and Secondary Education regarding mask usage and voiced their opposition while a vote was taken to adjourn the meeting.
I am going to come back from recess, but I would ask if you have that sign to please leave, and if you do not have a mask on and you're not following the rules of our school building, I would ask you to leave as well. I do believe in freedom of speech, and I understand the frustration for parents right now, but we are following the DESE guidelines that we need to follow. We did not make those rules. So we're doing our best to keep the children and our staff safe and healthy and in school as much as possible so they can learn. So if you're not following the rules of the building, I would please ask that you put a mask on or you leave. And that sign is not necessary. So I would ask you to please leave, or I will just adjourn our meeting, and we will not continue.
It's called freedom of speech.
This is not a public meeting. We are meeting in public. I'm asking you to please leave with your sign, sir. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Madam Chair, so moved.
I would take a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Any opposed?
No.
Madam Chair, roll call vote.
DESE recommendations.
Madam Chair, roll call vote.
We had this discussion when I spoke at your school committee meeting in June. DESE recommendations
Florence?
are recommendations. They're not
Mrs.
laws.
Conrad?
Aye.
Mr.
We do
Dolan?
not
Aye.
adhere to what
Mrs.
DESE
Holbrook?
suggests.
Dr. Prewandowski?
Aye.
Mr.
I was here
Marrera?
at a
No.
meeting in July,
Mr.
and not one
Fitzgibbons?
person
No.
on
And
this
the chair
committee
votes aye.
was
We are
wearing a
adjourned.
mask. Not one person on the negotiation from the side of the teachers union was wearing a mask.
Earlier in the session, the committee announced the signing of a contract with the Education Association. It's crazy to believe, but residents are continuing to clean up from the nor'easter that came through our area last week. The storm causing power outages that lasted 4 days in some cases and also knocked over numerous trees, including on Main Street, with one tree nearly falling on Eastern Bank. There were also a number of power lines in the roadways and on the sidewalks as well, creating some potentially dangerous situations for anybody that was going by. Power and tree crews were hard at work, as was the Bridgewater emergency personnel. And at the November 2nd council meeting, Councilor Sean George and Council President Matt Rushton thanked everybody that helped Bridgewater weather the storm.
A big thank you to the residents of Bridgewater who endured a pretty long period of time being without power, obviously for a major storm. I also want to say thank you to the crews that are still out there doing work from all over New England. I think we had a couple of crews from Canada working very, very hard to get people up and running. I do appreciate any time that there are residents in need to see other residents just coming out of the woodwork, offering, everything from a hot cup of coffee to a shower to charging phones and things of that nature for people that they may not necessarily know very well, but are open to that, which makes me very proud of this community.
Just wanted to thank the public safety chiefs being at home and listening on the radio. I know there's extraordinary hours that many of the officers worked. Some were moving trees, mixed in with power lines and other things going on. I know that the fire chief was down assisting all of the residents at the housing authority and helping them. It's really just an incredible town when things really get rough, like in this period that we had for several days of watching, really all of the members of public safety really step up to help residents in all kinds of ways.
Town Manager Michael Dutton also shared the vaccination numbers here locally, revealing that 57% of Bridgewater residents are fully vaccinated against COVID-19, while 62% have received at least one dose of the vaccine. The town manager also told councilors that there is no vaccine mandate expected for town employees, With some employees not vaccinated, the town manager said that they were asked to continue using COVID safety precautions.
We do have some that we know of that aren't vaccinated, and we continue to ask employees to just take precautions. We don't, at this stage, anticipate implementing a mandate. But if we sense that the community cases or cases within town are getting worse, we would go back and address that, but we don't anticipate issuing a mandate at this point.
We'll have more from the council meeting coming up in a little bit, but you can watch the full meeting on Channel 22 or on the town's Facebook page. Just search Town of Bridgewater, MA.
Here we go, PR! Put your hands together for the Pep Rally! Woo! Yeah, make some more noise!
BR students gathered at the football field for Pep Rally 2021, and this was the first one held since 2019 and took place outdoors in an effort to keep students and teachers safe. There was a tug of war and scavenger hunt won by the seniors who were at midfield, and the BR band and cheerleaders also performed for the crowd, as did fan favorite Nick Sylvia. You can watch the BR Pep Rally on our YouTube page and on our Facebook page as well. For either one, just search BTV Access Corporation. Getting back to the council meeting, and councilors unanimously voted to approve a new 9-precinct map. This will have an effect on how residents vote for upcoming elections and will also affect the town council, including the number of at-large positions. That will be discussed at future subcommittee meetings, but I did have a chance to talk to Bridgewater's Town Clerk Marilee Hunt about the need to re-precinct and how the growing number of residents affected the new precinct sizes. For folks who aren't watching nor up to date with local town government and how votes are counted, why was this re-precincting process needed? And is this something that other towns here in the Bay State are either doing or getting set to do?
This is something that everybody in every town in the whole United States is doing. So we aren't singled out for this, and definitely everyone in Massachusetts, every town in Massachusetts is doing it. It stems from what everyone participated in last year in 2020 was the decennial census, which happens every 10 years, that the United States government takes census to find out where people are, who is where, and what kind of representation is needed for our democracy. So when people fill that out, all those numbers go back to the federal government. They get sorted by state, and we get them back here to find out how many people we really have living in Bridgewater. And that's the beginning of it. And in Bridgewater, we knew our population was going to have grown. We've seen certain things. We've seen the Calthrop Preserve, we've seen Viva, we've seen Access, some of the larger housing developments. So we knew there were going to be quite a few more people in Bridgewater, but we didn't have any idea how many. And the way that starts to break down when we talk about re-precincting, first of all, I'll just remind everyone that when you vote, you have to vote in a precinct. You don't vote in a district, you don't vote in a ward. Everyone in Massachusetts votes in a precinct. So that's the very base level of how our town is divided, is into precincts. Since I've been here, we've always had 7 in Bridgewater. The thing about the law says that you can only have 4,000 people in a precinct. So when you take 28,633 and divide it by 4,000, you can't come out with 7. We're gonna have 633 people that are not gonna have a precinct, right? So we knew that we would probably have to have more than 7 precincts, and that's exactly what happened.
And I know Councilor Wood had brought up the Bridgewater State aspect of the census block and how that could affect it, because right now I'm looking at the precinct map, and the 9 precincts are being shown on the screen right now. And I'm looking and I'm seeing Precinct 5 has very, very little space on there, as does Precinct 8. Then you look at the number breakdown here, and as you mentioned, the 4,000 person limit, I guess, if you will, when you talk about the census blocks and the precincts. Right now, I see the largest one, according to the PowerPoint that you showed, 3,291, oddly enough, in Precinct 5, the smallest precinct on this new map.
Isn't that interesting? And that was a big difficulty for us because kind of naively before we started all this, or before I started all this, I was naive about it. And I thought, oh, precinct 5 is always so difficult for the counselor to get enough signatures because most of the population is at the university. So we'll find a way to divide that up and give that counselor a chance to have more, more voters, because we know that even though the population is at the university, it isn't a voting population within Bridgewater. And the same thing happens at the institution, at the correctional facility, where they have 4 institutions there that are quite a bit of population, but not voters. So what I learned is when the government creates these census blocks, they do it just as I said, by population and by demographic. And we don't have a choice of chunking those up into other pieces.
That was part 1. We'll have part 2 coming up in the next couple of weeks, and we thank you for watching this Bridgewater Now update. I'm John Locke.